But another league is starting up tonight. That is the WNBA. And you know what I like about this, Best Ben? We're seeing photos and we're seeing videos of chartered flights here with people stretching out on planes, which means better basketball should be playing. Because let's break it down to start with here, Ben, before we actually get to the numbers. This is a pretty big deal. Anybody that's flown commercial, which is just about every single one of us here watching and not flown private here, the ability to not go through the airport, to lounge, to have top flight service, to recuperate, to fly between city to city, this is a big deal as opposed to getting a delayed flight while you're on a commercial flight at this point here. I think we get a better quality of play this year, Ben, in the WNBA.
It's a huge deal, Donnie, and I really think it's a metaphor for this league in the W at this moment. In total, there's an investment from the league office side, chartered flights for the first time in the history of the WNBA, but it also shows this growing product as a whole. A lot of that is Caitlin Clark excitement, but a lot of that is just the beauty of the basketball in the WNBA that has seen a continued rise, TV ratings, audience numbers over the last few years. And with the basketball as a whole, last year was defined as the start of a new super team era in the WNBA. The New York Liberty after the acquisition of Breanna Stewart, and of course the Las Vegas Aces, the first back-to-back WNBA champion since the LA Sparks did so in 2001 and 2002. So this WNBA season here in 2024, the Aces begin their second consecutive WNBA title defense, looking to pull off the three-peat and are the favored team to do so. We'll run through these odds as we go team by team to highlight a few in just a moment, Donnie. But really, when you think about the WNBA in this moment, with all of the attention on the NCAA tournament these past few years in women's college basketball, and those stars now taking the leap to this next level, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, Mule, so many others in that list as well. Cameron Brink, who of course leaves Stanford and was the second overall pick now by the LA Sparks. Rekia Jackson, so many stars to name. This is the most highly anticipated WNBA season in history, and it starts tonight. It's a moment of celebration. And we heard of the WNBA draft. A moment for women's basketball now tries to carry that momentum into a new WNBA season. I cannot wait for this summer in the W.
Yeah, we'll take a look at Caitlin Clark's statistics and how she pertains to her own team. But let's just talk about her league-wide at this point, which I think you had a perfect segue to. We're talking about, private jets now and charter jets. There's a big reason with Caitlin Clark coming in because, as you know, as you run a business, and it's projections down the line. The influx of TV viewers, which leads to more people watching, more people buying tickets, and more money for the league itself. We also were hearing during these NCAA championship runs the past 2 years, once she gets to WNBA, I don't know what she's going to do, and some animosity, I should say, coming from some of the other players. But if you're sitting on that private jet flying to another city and you're still hating on Caitlin Clark, you're doing something wrong, because more eyeballs in the league, which means better product on the court, more money in your pocket, and better accommodations across the board. Something to keep an eye out on here. And she hasn't even played a regular season game. So let's get to some of the teams here, Ben, in the WNBA. 12 teams split between two conferences here. It's no surprise that we take a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook and say, where are the odds coming in on teams to win the WNBA championship? It's the Aces at a plus 100 price, followed by the Liberty at a plus 230 price. And then we hit that shelf there with the Storm, the Sun, and the Fever behind them. Are we looking at these two teams that should be on a collision course for a WNBA championship once again this summer?
Yes, it was the matchup that was promised a season ago. It was the matchup that we got delivered. The Aces did win their second consecutive WNBA title, led by Becky Hammond in a 4-game series, 3-1. Of course, best of 5 decides the WNBA championship. And all year long, Donnie, much like we have entering this 2024 season, it was that two-team race according to the odds. Las Vegas, the favorites. New York, not all that far behind, but a clear separation between the Aces and the Liberty and everybody else. The Storm have the third best price this year at 10-1. Seattle, a couple of huge offseason acquisitions, and the return of the WNBA's leading scorer last year, Jewel Lloyd. They get Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins-Smith. this offseason, as well as Nika Mule in the WNBA draft, that outstanding defender and guard from Connecticut. Seattle now third best price. The Connecticut Sun has one of the best players you will find in the WNBA, and Alyssa Thomas, a triple-double machine. She already leads the WNBA in terms of career triple-doubles with what she put up a season ago at 12-1. In the Indiana Fever, let's remember, drafted number 1 overall, of course, the acquisition of Caitlin Clark in those sweepstakes. But the year prior, DRS, also the number 1 overall pick, getting Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina. What a guard-big combo you have now in Indianapolis. But the reason the Fever drafted first overall again last season, they were 14 games below 500, 13-27. So the expectation now with Clark and Boston should rightfully be sky high in Indiana, but will it be matched? That's the different story. 13-27 for a team that had the lowest win total entering last year's 2023 WNBA campaign. And just quickly, here's maybe some fans out there of the early line of the SportsGrid network now starting to become fans of the WNBA. Only a 12-team league. Donnie is right, separated into 2 conferences. But the way you reach the playoffs, the top 8 make it, just in terms of 8 out of the 12. And last year, Donnie, 4 teams had a winning record, which meant that 4 teams reached the postseason with a losing record, 2 games below 500 or worse. So factor that into your win totals and into your make playoff prices. Not everybody needs to be 5 games above 500 to see the WNBA postseason, but it can be why it's so skewed and why you see the Aces and the Liberty well in front of everybody else in the W.
Yeah, league of haves and the have-nots. So let's talk about some of the haves here, and that would be the tier of 2, the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty. Win totals here for the Aces expected this year, 32.5. You take a look for the Liberty, that's 29.5. And the people that don't know, 2 dominant basketball teams last year in the WNBA. First, I want to ask you this, Ben. Any changes to either one of these teams coming into the season that we should know about, re-signings, or is it pretty much par for the course where they're bringing back the same group that they had last year?
The big one in Vegas, of course, is the retirement of the WNBA legend in Candace Parker, who was part of the acquisition last offseason, the WNBA title winners. Of course, Candace Parker, who won 3 WNBA titles with 3 different organizations, the only in W history to do that. Wasn't necessarily the superstar that we had seen, but they do, of course, return jaWilson, who won the WNBA MVP award 2 years ago and many thought got gypped by Breanna Stewart this past year in her first year in New York. The Liberty returns Stewie, Sabrina Ionescu. They have a couple of great players as well. Courtney Vandersloot orchestrating the offense, and the veteran big in Jonquel Jones. So a lot of familiar faces for both the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty. The only 2 teams a season ago, DRS, that won 30-plus games last year, both favored to win at least 30 in 2023. The third best record was the Connecticut Sun, 27-13, and led by Alyssa Thomas, were really that team to be neck and neck with New York and Las Vegas all season long.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to come in to see how these teams play right off of the bat. And also keep in mind, like, you see those team win totals, like, ooh, they sound low. Well, the season doesn't go as long as the NBA season, which you're going to play like an 82-game slate. So it's really a sprint. And also you can compare a little bit to the NFL. You can't go on 2 to 3 game losing streaks here in a shorter season here. That's going to hurt. But also, as Ben pointed out, when you take a look at the WNBA season as a whole, 12 teams in it, 8 make the playoffs. So you probably have to be pretty bad to miss the playoffs altogether. And teams that are drafting number 1, like the Fever, hopefully they will improve. Now, next segment, we're going to start to take a look here at Caitlin Clark, but also those MVP odds and where she shows up. Because keep in mind, when you look at the FanDuel Sportsbook, it's a sportsbook here. Those numbers adjusting based on how much money is flooding the market on who should actually win that. The WNBA taking center stage right on the early line. More talk coming up next. MVP talk of the WNBA. That's what's on deck right now. It's Ben Stevens, Donnie Rightside here on a glorious morning talking on the SportsGrid Network, SiriusXM channel 159. Let's take a look at those odds here on the board, because usually rookies don't enter into the MVP odds all that much, particularly to start a season. Maybe they filter in like a CJ Stroud, who played fantastic football last year for the Houston Texans, but now we're seeing Wilson plus 100, Stewart plus 800, Clark plus 950, third in line here right now at the FanDuel Sportsbook to win a possible MVP with those odds. Let's talk about, we might as well start with Caitlin Clark. The chances that she wins the actual MVP, and also, are we pricing it appropriately, or are we putting just too much on her shoulders right now to be third in line right now in odds?
I think it's a little bit too lofty of an expectation. Third best number, one of 3 players in the WNBA, along with the last 2 MVPs in this league, to have less than a 4-digit price. Caitlin Clark is going to have some success to start off her WNBA career. There is no doubt about that. We saw flashes early in her W preseason games for Indiana. Ben, it's preseason. I understand. She is capable of this moment. She is going to prove why she is one of the greats of this generation in women's college basketball, one of the greatest to ever do it, and now into the professional ranks as well. Donnie highlighted that many of the old guard, the vets, were a little bit skeptical that she would come into the WNBA and take over things right away. There are going to be some growing pains as you get to this next elite level, but Caitlin Clark is going to have rapid success in the WNBA. Enough to win the MVP award in a rookie campaign in Indianapolis? I remain a little bit skeptical. I would also say, Donnie, when you look at those odds, I mentioned the narrative, and this is a narrative award. Stewie, in her first year with the New York Liberty, was sensational, but many thought jaWilson, leading the Las Vegas Aces to the number 1 seed in the WNBA, a 19-1 home record. As Donnie knows, it's very difficult to walk into the Michelob Ultra Arena on the Strip and walk out with a victory, that jaWilson was more than deserving of the WNBA MVP award. And now she's the even money favorite, $7 in front of Breanna Stewart entering this season. It's a little bit like Jokic being the preseason NBA MVP favorite. Many people thought he should have won his 3rd straight, but the narrative kept him from doing that. I think jaWilson is the rightful favorite entering this year's MVP conversation. Again, I believe in Caitlin Clark. She is going to win the WNBA Rookie of the Year award and is a minus 700 favorite to do just that. But to expect her in her first year in the W to win the most valuable player hardware, that's a little bit too lofty.
Yes, and by the way, we were out at the Super Bowl representing the SportsGrid network, and just walking by that arena, you got shivers down your spine. Like, man, you look through those doors over there, you ain't walking out with a victory, pal. Absolutely not. We'll see if that holds true once again this year. But if we are taking a look at some of the players in that MVP market down the opposite end, that is Ionescu at 25-1, Plum at 40-1, and you see Brittany Griner at 50-1. I don't know if that affected the news that came out, I believe, yesterday. I believe she has a broken foot or a broken digit on her feet, which that's going to put you out for a couple weeks. Yeah, who knows what's going to actually happen with that one, but just some interesting ones to keep track of. But also, we are talking about Caitlin Clark and some of those season specials that will be a lot of fun to bet here. 22 plus points per game. That's a minus 160 price. That's a crazy average for a rookie coming in that people said might struggle here. 1 or more 3-point shots in all games, a plus 100. How about 3+ triple doubles at a plus 190 price, which doesn't sound like a lot because we know she's going to get the assist. We know she's going to get the points, but stepping up into the WNBA, the professional ranks, and grabbing 10 rebounds as a guard, that could be tough to do. Any one of these price points or markets, Ben, catching your attention here?
Yeah, so I think one of the best markets that our producer Joe Frieso bet when it was plus 290 but opened at plus 340 is to make a 3 in every game this year. It's now even money, plus 100. Caitlin Clark is the best shooter we have ever seen in women's college basketball, arguably the best shooter we have ever seen in D1 college basketball history, setting the record for the most made threes in a career and the most made three-pointers in a single season. Is she the female Steph Curry? Well, Steph had a three-point shooting streak of making at least one in a game for more than multiple seasons, so not the craziest bet, although the expectation is incredibly high. Well, look at her props for her WNBA debut tonight for the Fever on the road in Connecticut. To average 22 points per game, and her points prop for her debut tonight in the opener is 20.5. Again, all of these expectations are sky high because of the attention, and yet we set those similar expectations for Caitlin Clark during her time at Iowa, and she often exceeded, if not at bare minimum matched, what those lofty expectations were. I think it's also interesting, Donnie, when you pay that forward for what she is expected to do individually to lead her team, the Indiana Fever. Again, 13-27 last season. They have drafted number 1 overall the past 2 years and are now favored at a minus 310 number to make the playoffs with a win total that is up by 7, potentially 8 wins because of where the juice is on that win total from last year's win-loss record. Again, it's not just for Caitlin, it's the Caitlin Fever for the Fever overall. She'll have a great complement, Analia Boston, and a talented roster elsewhere in Indiana, but that's a lot of expectation right from the jump in her WNBA career.
No, it certainly is. And you take a look at Iowa. If you ask her about all her individual accolades, what did you enjoy the best about college? It was probably making back-to-back runs here at a national championship, which brings into effect this year. Yeah, she would love to win the MVP award or the Rookie of the Year, which we'll get to in just a few moments. But you know she's going to want to improve on what happened last year with Indiana. Their team win total on this season, Ben, 20.5. To make the playoffs, again, pretty easy to make the playoffs, but this is a bad basketball team, heavily favored at a minus 310 price and a title at 23-1. If we look at those 3 options here, does one of those catch your eye?
I think when you look at the 20.5, that would be the best bet because the juice is so heavy for the postseason, but they are very correlated. If they get to 20, maybe even 21 wins, as we mentioned, they're more than likely, at least based on last year's sample size, 4 teams with a winning record, 4 teams with a losing record in the top 8 to make the WNBA playoffs. That would be where I look.
Fever Sun odds, Rookie of the Year odds coming up. Look at this. It's a WNBA extravaganza. It's Ben and Don, the Basketball Kings of the SportsGrid Network. We cover it all. We do. We'll be right back after this short break. To get down to business here in the WNBA, we got games tonight. We got seasons to take a look at. And also, we talked about who is going to be the MVP. How about Rookie of the Year odds? Now, we talked about Caitlin Clark, 3rd in line in the MVP race. A monster favorite here to take down Rookie of the Year in the WNBA at a minus 700 price. Brink at a 9-1 price. Jackson 31-1. Angel Reese at 35-1. Are we looking at the clear-cut winner right off the break? Because it has the same vibes as Victor Wembanyama. Like, as long as you stay healthy, you are supposed to win this. But not even Victor Wembanyama had a minus 700 price on this one.
Correct. His price was something like minus 175 entering a new NBA season. Again, these are narrative-based awards. You can quantify them based on the metrics and the betting public, but ultimately it is a story. It is a narrative voted on by media members who like to make up narratives and stories. If Caitlin Clark plays the entirety of this WNBA season and reaches the levels of success that we have ironed out for her, she is going to win this award. It is why she is such a heavy favorite. It does not mean that Cam Brink or Rekia Jackson for LA. You look at Angel Reese, who had a great WNBA preseason for the Chicago Sky. Aaliyah Edwards now with the Mystics cannot have success. And I do believe all of these faces we have come to know and love from their time in women's college basketball do reach instant success in the WNBA. But it's Caitlin Clark's award to lose.
Yeah, all right. Let's get to the game tonight, the Fever and the Sun, which we did have a link in our little subscription here that Joe Frizo sent, and it was broken. But I'm a professional. I found exactly where I needed to go. That's the Fever and the Sun tonight. 6.5-point favorite for the Sun on their home court. A total of 167.5. Opening night in the WNBA with the biggest superstar coming into it. How does this plan? An underdog. Can we pull the outright upset here, Ben?
This game on national TV for Caitlin Clark's debut, probably going to set historic numbers for a WNBA regular season game to start off a season. There is going to be so much attention, but the right side is favored. The Sun, the 3rd best team last year, again, 27-13. Both the Aces and the Liberty won 30 games. Connecticut, that 3rd best record at 27-13. Just to make a point, Alyssa Thomas, who has the WNBA career record for triple-doubles at 9 in her career, had 5 a season ago. Caitlin Clark, who had a ton of triple-doubles during her time at Iowa, I believe 17 or 18 at career close. Again, she's going to have some lofty numbers associated, but that's the pedigree that we're talking about here. Can Caitlin Clark score 20 in her WNBA regular season debut? That's the expectation. She had 21 in her WNBA preseason debut. Look to the three-point shot. That's how she's going to start to light it up. or in the assist prop as well at 7.5 for Caitlin Clark's numbers on her debut night. But I would expect, and this is just a thought, we don't have a sample size on what Indiana's offense looks like with Caitlin Clark running things at the helm, that the Fever push the pace just a little bit like Iowa did last year in women's college basketball. If I had a bet in this game, Connecticut is the right side to be favored. I do like to see some points tonight over 167 and a hook.
It is opening night. Some other interesting games across the landscape. The Liberty at the Mystics here. That's an 11-point spread. The Mercury at the Aces. That's a 15-point spread. And the Lynx and the Storm at a -8. Any other games on the card, Ben, catching your attention here in the WNBA's opening night extravaganza?
Yeah, DRS, you mentioned the bad news for the Phoenix Mercury. Brittany Griner fracturing her toe during training camp and the WNBA preseason, set to miss some considerable time here to start the year. Part of the reason the Aces are a 15-point favorite tonight at home inside the Michelob Ultra Arena, where they were 19-1 during the regular season last year. The Aces are the rightful WNBA title favorites, looking for that third straight title. The Liberty and the Mystics, New York on the road in D.C., a hefty double-digit favorite. Expect a big night from Breanna Stewart. Excited to see what the Storm do. Again, big offseason acquisitions, now laying 8 in their opener against the Minnesota Lynx, who had a down year last year. Minnesota's won 3 WNBA championships in the last 6 years. Can they return to that form as a franchise? We shall see. Seattle, though, those big offseason acquisitions of Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins-Smith. How do they play tonight alongside Jewel Lloyd, who I do want to mention her points prop tonight, the WNBA's leading scorer last year. To get her points prop tonight, 21.5. The over has even money. That's a WNBA season preview where they look at the quadruple header tonight, DRS, for the most highly anticipated WNBA season, probably on record. It begins tonight with 4 games. A great summer in the W ahead. Stay with the Early Line next.